Tonight on The Marketplace, we talk about financing MSMEs. Before we delve into this conversation, we're going to have a short clip by Cynthia Karuri, who is the Chief Enterprise Business Officer at Safaricom, on some of the things that they prioritize when talking to MSMEs about financing them.
You will see an array of products, from voice to data to fiber to M-Pesa, and bundling them all up so that it's easy, it's convenient, whether you're just starting out a business and you don't know what combination of products to have. That's our job. Our job is to enable business. Your job is just to come in and say, this is what I can afford, and we can give you the best package to allow you to have connected technology. In this day and age, you cannot run a business when you're not connected. It doesn't matter where you are. It's about being able to be connected to markets. It's about being able to have access to inputs. And it's also about giving you a path for growth for your business. Connected technology is the way it goes, and that is what we're here to support.
Those are some of the things that MSMEs look for, especially when they want to find a platform so that they can be financed or that they can run their finances on. In studio tonight, we have Jim Mwilaria, the head of MSME at National Bank of Kenya. We also have David Kanyi, who is here with us, a senior manager under the digital financial services in Safaricom. We're going to be discussing MSMEs, financing MSMEs. MSMEs make up for almost 90% of enterprises in this country. I'm going to start with you, David. What are some of your priority areas when you're looking at MSMEs and how they can be accessing finance on the digital platforms?
So thank you for having us. And so for MSMEs, it's an area that we're very keen to support as Safaricom. I think from our insights, market insights, and what we've seen as moving away from the traditional credit space into now the digital space, one of the critical things that we look at for is access, ease of access. And ease of access for us means simplicity in terms of offering credit. Today back, I'll tell you, if any MSME would want to access credit, they don't have to go and line up in a bank or go with collateral, get a title deed, or get a chief to just confirm they come from a certain area. You just need your phone, ease of access, and then, of course, we just do a bit of credit scoring on you, and based on your behavioral aspects on how you spend your money, and you access credit. As simple as that. So we're looking at ease of access and using the digital platforms that we've put in place.
Right, very interesting. Mr. Mwilaria, what are some of the categories or what are some of the aspects that you look into when financing MSMEs?
Thanks. First and foremost, I would want to understand what is your background in that business, what is your experience. Is it something that you just woke up this morning and you decided I want to work in a bank and get the funds? So the first thing that we look at is the experience you have to run in that business. Second is, what is the purpose of the funds that you are looking for? Is it something that is going to add value to that business that you are going to develop? Is it going to something that is going to make more profitable and going to generate more revenue for yourself? And then finally is, then in case of any shocks in the environment, how are you able to come back and be able to survive your business and also be able to pay the bank?
Right. Some of the aspects, and we are going to be having this running on screens right now, that we look into, or some of the aspects that you must know about MSMEs, is that it employs over 14.9 million directly. As Safaricom, Mr. David, if you would just tell us, all of these people are looking for financial platforms. They are looking for ways in which they can save, ways in which they can get more money for their businesses, ways in which they can even add on to the value chains that they have and expand and grow, not only in Kenya, but in other countries. Maybe collateral is a big problem for them. The government was looking into having, their credit scores checked, so that can be an aspect that digital platforms and even banks can look into when they're financing these businesses. What is your view on that?
So how we look at it from a Safaricom perspective, because we don't work alone, we work with commercial banks. Of course, we are not a bank. so we don't carry the credit risk. So, but we work in partnership with the ecosystem. So today, Hibak, I'll tell you, Safaricom knows you better than you know yourself. Right. So we know where you spend your money through M-Pesa, we know how you make your calls. So we use all this data, and data is one of the critical things that we prime ourselves in. We use all this data to start understanding the business, understanding the consumer, and from that then we're able to tell if this consumer is able to afford the credit that will be given to them. We'll accord them a certain limit, and that limit will be driven by what the consumer does in terms of his behavioral aspects of spending money. Now, when you look at the scorecard that we create, it's not a punitive scorecard. It's actually a scorecard that defines your business and defines you. And with that scorecard, we're able to tell you, at this point, you're able to either get access credit at this level, but you can improve on your credits if you do 1, 2, 3 things. And the good thing is that we have visibility of all that activity. So we're able to tell you, if you're able to pick a bit of our data, pick a bit of our call outs, pick a bit of, use your M-Pesa a bit more, then all these data now funneled into one is able now to define the kind of person you are, the kind of business you run, and how you transact within our ecosystem, because it's a platform that now tracks your activities across all data points that we have. And with that, now we're able to tell you, this is a match we can accord you, and over time you can actually grow that if you do certain things. Now, we've done that through allowing them to see. We can actually allow you to see how you're transacting through your business app. And from the M-Pesa business app, you're able to track your transactions, you're able to track your activities, who you're paying, your expenses. And that is very critical for MSMEs and SMEs, because that is one area that has been a challenge for them. You just do business in a day and you don't even know where your money has gone. But using the tools that we are giving them, then they're able to track their business. They're able to know how much money I need to borrow to improve on my business, and also plan ahead in terms of how you need to pay up for some of these loans that you pick from us.
So David, essentially you're saying we have to look at the behavioral statistics and the graph of the individual, their spending habits, and how exactly they use their money, and how exactly they give their money, and how they run their business, essentially. Jim, collateral is a major problem. You've had one-on-one interactions with MSMEs. Do you think that maybe this credit score system is the future, and how can banks ensure that they can get their money back now that there's no physical collateral?
All right, first, before I answer that question, I would want to demystify what is collateral. Typically, when any business customer walks to any bank, collateral to them means land. Over time, banks have actually evolved and defined the scope of collateral. You find that things like business assets, what you normally use to do production on that business, can form part of the collateral. The other thing is actually your friends can be your collateral, the guarantor. The people that you do business with, your clients, your suppliers can be form of collateral, right? So over time, we have been able to demystify that, and we're able to give different options and different solutions so that we are able to ask you, what can you offer? And in all these, collateral means is actually what is the bank's way out in events did turn out. Where do you fall? And you find that banks typically would want to have their money back as fast as possible. Now, like David's saying, is that one of the main things that we look at is the history of that business. Right. Now, pre-scoring tools actually typically would want to pick that behavioral of that client in terms of where you run the business, who do you deal business with, who are your partners, do they keep their word when you agree to make a payment, such things. So I believe that pre-scoring is the future, and you can only continue to improve on it based on the new insights that you're getting as new businesses come up.
Right, and technology is only growing, which is a factor that a lot of people usually look into, especially knowing that not only are businesses and financial platforms giving loans to people, some people also get these finances from their friends and their family. And apparently, according to the Central Bank of Kenya, Kenyans have improved in their payment methods. If we could just have that, the access to finance. Kenyans are getting loans from commercial banks, as at last year, MSMEs were getting around 100,000 shillings to 8.2 million shillings for micro, small and medium enterprises. This in comparison to last year was around between 86,000 to 7.7 million shillings. They're paying back more and they're getting back more. We also see that loans from MFBs, microfinance institution, microfinance banks, and even SACCOs, as at last year stood at between 30,000, that's around 27,000 shillings, and 4 million for micro, small, and medium enterprises, comparing to 2020, where the same microfinance banks and microfinance institutions are giving between 23,000 shillings and 4.5 million shillings. There's an improvement. Kenyans want money, and this money is being turned into money. A lot of MSMEs, and I'm going to throw this to you, David, a lot of MSMEs usually when they're looking for quick money, they go to their digital platforms. This is somewhere that they usually, just hop on to. It's so easy for me to go to my Fuliza and see, I have this amount, I have this limit, let me take this amount of money. What would you advise Kenyans, especially knowing that a lot of small businesses operate between 50,000 shillings to 1 million shillings on the higher side? What would you advise, in accordance to how much money you have, what would you advise they should take?
So there has to be a lot of discipline. Kenyans, and the way we look at them, they have a high affinity for credit. I mean, today you wake up and tell guys, I want to give you credit. And even some of the digital lenders who came in the first time,
right.
There was this notion that this money is free, and these are just wazungus who've come to give us money and they'll go back. And people took that money and never paid, and they ended up in the CRB and were listed. So the Kenyans have a high affinity for credit. Now, credit is not bad it's not bad if well used. Credit is actually a motivator to growing a business, either financing your cash flows, financing your short-term needs. Now, but you require a lot of discipline. You understand your business better. If you are a mamamboga, if you are a shoe shiner, you understand what you need to buy, you understand what you need to pay for, and you understand how much your business is able to cover in terms of what you take as a loan. Right. So the first thing you need to appreciate is appreciate your business, understand your business, have discipline, because credit will be offered to you from all corners, but just take what you know you can be able to service, because again, it can either grow your business or kill your business, and entirely kill you as a person in terms of when you get too indebted. If you look at how we've done it from a Safaricom perspective, we have a global behavioral score. So we know that, for example, you can access credit worth about 50,000 shillings. Right. But you have various products within M-Pesa for which you can access that credit. So what we do is that we limit what you can access based on your global score. So that if today you want to access Fuliza at 10,000, you want to access another merchant term loan, for example, at 20,000, once you hit your limit, then you cannot get much more than that. And this helps you in sort of trying to manage the risk of being over-indebted and not performing in terms of your obligations when they come due. So having that discipline is very critical. And we've realized sometimes we all want money. And for us to instill that discipline, we have to use technology to, first of all, score you, give you a limit, and then help you grow that limit through your behavior in terms of how you pay back, grow that, and then as you get into that culture of now appreciating credit, then you also get you get to appreciate that credit is able to grow you, and you don't have to take more than you require for the business.
All right, David. And Jim, maybe for National Bank and for the MSMEs that you come into contact with, especially the mamambogas, as he said, the shoe shiners, the small businesses, and even the youth, when they come to National Bank and they ask for a loan, and all they have is their name, what would you advise these people?
For me, the most important thing is trust. They ask you to do diligence with the kind of clients that you do business with. Because one of the biggest challenge is the terms of payment that you either get from where you get the goods and who you sell to. Because you find that Kenya, the way it is, that there is an aspect of credit when it comes to services and goods.
Right, Jim, you're making very valid points, but there seems to be a small technical hitch. So I'll just throw this to David for a minute. The traditional way of assessing, collateral and assessing what exactly, you've spoken about behavioral, changes and checking that particular graphic. If you could just tell us, for the youth who comes with nothing but his name, and he wants a Fuliza loan, and he believes that this Fuliza loan will be, good for their business, what would you advise them?
So the first thing that would advise the youth is that ensure you are taking the loan for productive use. Because today I can take a loan to go and squander, but it will follow me in terms of struggling for repayment. Now, when it comes to, and I'll give you an example here.
Yes.
You could find a youth who wants just Fuliza to get transport to get to a certain place to do a pitch deck.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
They didn't want that money to go and finance the business, but they wanted to go and present what they have to, to either a panel or a board. And that can unlock that idea that they have pitched to that board, and when they will leave that place, they leave with a contract. That is the impact of ease of access of credit, but for the right use. So what I would advise them is to do is make sure that when you're taking the loan, understand that the loan has to be repaid. So we have to have the culture and the discipline of repaying our loans. That is one, because you can either build your career or kill it downstream if you don't have that discipline. Then secondly, what I would tell them is that ensure that you're putting this money into productive use. Not consumption. So if you take a loan for consumption, of course you'll struggle in repaying it back, because you'll have to find another loan, get a Shylock, sell a shoe, sell a TV to get. But put that money into enterprise, which gives you a bit of return, and then you're able to pay back your loan. Again, loans are not bad, as I said, but they should be put into proper use and productive use, for that matter.
Right, and you were, reverberating a lot of the things that he said. You were echoing a lot of his points. If you could just tell us nothing but their name, what would you advise them?
Like I said, first thing first is that, like David is saying, you must know your business. Absolutely very important. The purpose that you are borrowing, then it must be something to add more value to already the business that you have. We understand at times there might be economic shocks that you are not able to make the right returns you expect. The right thing would be encouraged is that you come back to the bank and say this has happened, and then the bank always is willing to listen to you, so that it can give you an option of a repayment plan. Right? That is very important. Then the other thing is that there's also the aspect of financial literacy. You have to understand then how money flows in and out of your business. Then you understand also the aspect of mentorship. Who else has come before you who can mentor you to an area that you want to go into? Because what we have realized for most of our business customers, SMEs, is that they are jack of all trades. So you find that I want to do 6 things at a go. So whichever comes up is what I'm going to use. But that at times doesn't really work very much. So we'd say that just focus on few items, then you can iterate as you go by. Yes.
And as businesses take that advice and look into how they're going to be starting small and growing to bigger lengths, we're seeing that a trend usually is a lot of businesses opt for value-added financial services. We're going to be discussing that in the next session that we're going to be having. This particular session goes for a very short break, but we'll be right back. Thank you so much for staying tuned to TV47. This is The Marketplace. Jim and David and I were just talking about the criteria of loans and how a lot of businesses can expand the criteria, or they can expand the loans that they have access to. David, you were telling me how being in a community or being in a group makes it easier for you to get some loans.
So if you look at us as individuals, we sometimes get over ourselves and get more credit that we can pay. But if you look at the social aspects of how even the circles operate, the social aspects of how groups come together to capital raise, to raise money to either fund a certain project, that then helps the groupings to either instill a bit of discipline around them,
right,
and also ensure that the members are kept on their toes in terms of honoring their repayments and their obligations. So it makes it easier also as a group to also unify your thoughts in terms of the projects you're getting into, and also not to get too carried away in terms of either picking up a very big loan or also looking at a project that is out of scope. So the social aspect of groupings also has helped in terms of checking each other, right, and ensuring that the members in the group have a common aspect in terms of where they want to invest, and also ensure that every one of us is able also to repay back as and when asked to do that, because we owe it to the group, not to ourselves.
You owe it to the group. And Jim, we were just discussing and we were talking about how being in a group or being yourself as an individual doesn't necessarily mess with your credibility. It doesn't mess with the credibility of the group in accessing finances. How is this?
Well, all credit appraisal starts with a history. It also means you must be an upstanding citizen in the community.
Right.
So the more you are well known and you are well disciplined, then that actually gives you some mileage in terms when you're approaching new partners, right? So one of the advantages then of being part of the group is just the aspect of teamwork. Together we stand, then if there's no teamwork, then you will fall. So like David is saying, is that then there's an aspect of accountability. When it comes, if the three of us here decides to take a risk, then I will hold each of us accountable to one another, because without each of us, then we are not going to benefit. So for me, I would say then it is very important, then trust is very key, and then the accountability. What you say you are going to do and you keep your word, it is actually one of the main reasons why banks will give you credit or not.
And speaking of teamwork, it's very interesting that you brought that up, because a lot of financial institutions have been accused of their loan portfolio locking out a lot of marginalized groups like women, the youth, and people with special abilities. What do you say about that?
First, I'll say that that's not true. What has happened is that we start with both the county government and national government. Right. They have access to government procurement opportunities, where 30% of all those tenders are normally given to women, youth, and persons with disabilities.
Right.
Now, typically we know those groups typically will not have the basic collaterals. So what normally happens is then that we are able to have different products that it's either the pricing is lower, the terms that typically a bank will ask if a normal person would come, we will going to remove some of those conditions. We are going to have longer tenors, and of course we are going to give a higher limit, because what has happened is that also these groups typically the government will pay faster. We are able to then link them to suppliers and also link them to other government institutions that we are working with them, especially the county government, and they would want to roll out different programs to support these special groups.
And speaking of loan portfolios, only 31.4% of businesses are women-owned and run. 1.17 million businesses are usually women-led. However, only 50,000 are formally registered under women. This could be a major problem, and as he said, you know, having collateral for these particular special groups is not always the norm. As Safaricom, how exactly are people with disabilities, women, and the youth catered for?
So Safaricom, we are a big proponent of working with diversity. Right. And women, youth, people living with disability are part and parcel of our core business. We transform lives irrespective of your affinity, irrespective of your race, irrespective of gender, and whether you're able or not. And how we do this is today, if I was you to use my phone, you would not know whether I'm a person living with disability or not. Yes. The only thing you require is this gadget, a score, and your ID, and you can access credit. Now, we have also worked very closely with government. Recently, if you look at the Hustler Fund that we rolled out together with government and the other telcos, if you look at out of the 34 billion that has already been disbursed, about 33% of that has gone to the youth, and between the ages of about 19 years and 29 years, right? So that is a niche of a market probably that was not being serviced by most of the lenders. And it's because probably they do not have any score, they do not have any collateral to drive, they don't have anything to show for. However, the fact that they've been able to access that credit, and we've started now monitoring their behavior, they are now opening up themselves to opportunities to access even more credit because they are growing in terms of their behaviors, they are growing in terms of their repayment ability, and that then tells you the importance of that. Now, we've worked with government also to roll out Women Enterprise Fund, for example, and now we have digitized that process where you don't have to go to your local administrator to confirm you are the person, but as a group of women, in whichever corner of this country, government is actually distributing that money through a digital platform, which we are actually supporting.
And speaking of lending and lending institutions, lending to MSMEs has generated 105.1 billion shillings for the banking industry. This is according to the Central Bank of Kenya, and also this is representing 24.4% of the total income for the sector. This is generating money. MSMEs are ensuring that the country is running, and as you know, there were a lot of factors that were holding back the economy. First, it was COVID-19, and then we of course had inflation rates going so high. However, the inflation rates are starting to balance out. Do you foresee that the MSME sector is going to be giving more to the banking industry in terms of revenue?
Yes, definitely. I would want you to imagine every time you leave your house, all the daily items that you normally use refers to a business customer and SME, right? 90% of all businesses globally are MSMEs. So it means also in Kenya, 90% of all businesses are MSMEs.
Right.
So then it means MSMEs are the engine of our economy. It means then the more we empower them, the more they're able to adopt and come up with new ways of making life easier for all of us. So the outlook is very positive for the area. As a national bank, we are keen to support those areas with or without collateral. Right. Over time, we have been able to come up with different products to accommodate that. And for me, I would say is that being part of an ecosystem, understanding your partner and negotiate the terms of payment is very important. And where there are shocks, then it's always good to come back to the table and see how do we solve these problems. Banks are always willing to listen. Like during the time of COVID, we're able to give loan restructures, and now slowly we are able now to see those customers being able to come back, and also we have been able to give them more funds so that they can revamp their businesses.
Right.
Yes.
And speaking of being an ecosystem, a lot of MSMEs usually die before their third birthday, and a lot of MSMEs usually flatline at around 1 year. They start to flatline, they start to plateau. What are some of the special packages, David, that you offer to these MSMEs to ensure that maybe they go beyond that 3-year barrier that usually holds them back?
So one of the biggest challenges that we have with MSMEs is upskilling and of course lack of financial literacy. So what we've done and the plan for us, especially because we graduate our SMEs, starting with the small enterprises who we service through a product called Pochi, La Biashara.
Okay.
We start with those ones and start now, encouraging them to start, building their scores, start building their business. And as they do that, you now graduate them to small and medium enterprises, right? So if I was just to give you some statistic, for example, we have about 6 million Pochi, customers who interact with the Pochi wallet. We have about 1.34 million SMEs. MSMEs who we have through our tills, merchant tills.
Okay.
Now, out of all this, if you look at Pochi, we have about 370,000 who are monthly active. And that means that these are people who are transacting on that particular wallet on a daily basis or a month within the month. Now, out of this, the turnover that has gone through, like for example, the Pochi wallet is just up until to now, and now it's about 2.2 billion shillings.
Right.
Now, if you look at the SME, who we call the persons who are running the tills, about 650,000, right? About 14 million of them have, transactions that, today, me and you always pay to a till somewhere. So 14 million of us always pay to a till somewhere, and that interaction has brought in a monthly turnover of about 150 billion shillings.
Right.
So that just tells you in terms of these businesses, there is actually a business case to be followed here, and there's a business case to be supported. The only thing that we require to do is ensure that we are able to tool them, give them the access to credit, give them the access to tools that help them also monitor how they are utilizing the credit, how they are doing their business. And we're doing that very well with our business app, where they're able to see how am I transacting. I can be able to trade or rather to settle a bill with another till. And that coexistence within the ecosystem then helps us now start building that SME. Now, our plan is to move SMEs from just borrowing for short term and cash flow to getting them into now getting into the large enterprise space where they can actually even get long term debt and eventually even list on the exchange.
Right. And this is very interesting because a lot of MSMEs usually get very impatient. They feel like this business is not growing at the rate I want to grow. I want it to grow. I want it to grow so fast. However, it's not going as fast as I wanted it to go. And sometimes they go to digital lenders who might not be the best people to go to, and they start being harassed, and we've seen messages coming on. The Central Bank of Kenya recently started regulating them, and we have a little over 10 or so out of almost 300 digital lenders that had wanted to be registered in this aspect. Jim, if maybe you could just tell us, what is the importance of going to a credible financial firm to get the money? The process might be long, but what are some of the benefits that MSMEs can get from going to credible financial sources?
All right. I think for every business customer would want to have a partner. Right. For better or for worse. Right? Because what happens is that any time that you're approaching any credit financial institution, you're looking at a positive outlook. Now, very few customers would want now to look at what is things don't turn out the way they are. Typically, because you have signed a contract, it means then the terms of payment still stands. Now, if you don't approach a financial institution that is not regulated, then it means then that flexibility is not there. A regulated financial institutions means then there are certain terms of reference that they must adhere to so that they be fair to that borrower, right? So that is one of the reasons why approaching any institution that is regulated, that is the biggest advantage to get. Secondly, then there's an aspect of capacity building. Not every time businesses require capital to scale.
Right.
At times you find that most of the business, actually, we have realized, actually in bank right now, majority of accounts that you hold are non-borrowing customers.
Right.
They simply just want to have a safe place to keep their funds. So one of the other advantages that you get in banking, especially National Bank, is you're able now to have that advice.
Right.
In terms of what is the market outlook, in terms of the product, or in terms of ways to scale that business of yours. And what are the new markets, what are the networks that you need to access. So that is very important when you have a true partner. And we're able to then to guide you and link you to other partners and other ecosystems that you have. Right now, banks are working with Safaricom. in terms of payment solutions, where we have like the pay bill, the buy goods, Lipa and M-Pesa, is that it is now linked directly to banks' accounts.
Right.
Right.
And I think it's very important that you establish enough trust so that, you know, MSMEs and even individuals can say, this is my financial institution, this is my mode of payment, this is how I want this money to be moving from here to here, especially in value chains. We could play a clip about value addition, especially when it comes to MSMEs and how they can value add, especially when they're accessing finance, when they're looking for finances. What are some of the things that these institutions are giving to MSMEs?
You will see an array of products, from voice to data to fiber to M-Pesa, and bundling them all up so that it's easy, it's convenient, whether you're just starting out a business and you don't know what combination of products to have. That's our job. Our job is to enable business. Your job is just to come in and say, this is what I can afford, and we can give you the best package to allow you to have connected technology. In this day and age, you cannot run a business when you're not connected. It doesn't matter where you are. It's about being able to be connected to markets. It's about being able to have access to inputs. And it's also about giving you a path for growth for your business. Connected technology is the way it goes, and that is what we're here to support.
That is Cynthia Karuri. I'm seeing David was nodding vehemently. She's saying you must be connected. There's an interconnectedness that is required when you're running your business and when you're moving your money around. What's your opinion on that?
So Safaricom's core first starts with the network. So you have to use the network, for example, before you even get to M-Pesa. So what Cynthia is saying passionately there is, one, for a business, you have to use the network, you have to access internet, you have to access other services like IoT, Internet of Things, to scale your business. You have to have visibility. And Safaricom will give you that visibility through the tools that we're giving you. Secondly, as a business, you also, finance comes maybe at the tail end. Right? As you try and then build your business, there are certain things that you need to do as a business, and we'll help you do that. I'll give you an example. Today, and in the recent times, you've seen a lot of cyber attacks, right? And those are critical risks that are there and are there for businesses. And even when you're setting up a business, even as you look at credit, cyber risks are prevalent, and is something that can actually drive the business down. We as Safaricom are offering bundled products that cut across you offering data, access to internet, cyber security, and also bundling other products like insurance for the business, fire, burglary, all that, and even giving you opportunities to save your surplus through some of the products that we have within our wealth management propositions. So we give you a well-rounded opportunity where you can come, access short-term credit to grow your business, access other services that we have within the company. That includes what you've talked about, network, and also fixed data and all that, and also give you asset protection through insurance, and also allow you to do a bit of savings and investment opportunities around there.
Right. David, you've brought a very interesting twist to this conversation. Cybersecurity, one, and saving, two, which is, a conversation we must have once again on the marketplace. However, now we're running out of time. This conversation has been very scintillating. Jim, if maybe you could just tell us as a parting shot and to maybe conclude on what he has just said, what are some of the things that you would A, advise the youth on, and B, promise as a financial institution?
All right. For me, I think I'll say that trust is very key. The community you live in actually become your strength. Banks rely heavily on trust and credibility. We are the custodian of money that given from the public. So it means for us as banks, then trust is very key. And that money that we give out for on-one lending is picked from point A to point B. That money has to come backward way. So trust is very important. Number two, then you must really understand your craft. You must research, you must understand what kind of business model you want to run, how do you want to scale it, what assistance do you require. Banks typically, especially National Bank, will have different networking opportunities. It will connect you to mentors. It is going to open new markets for you to tap into, in addition to you coming and opening an account at National Bank.
Right, Jim, and we must have a part 2 of this conversation. It was going to such a nice place. Your parting shot, David, what do you say?
So looking at the SME and SME space, there are 4 things that are going to drive MSMEs and digitization, right? One will be connectivity. We've talked about internet here. That is very critical. 2 will be financial technology. We talked about access to digital products for credit, savings, insurance, and wealth, and all those things. And 3 will be compute. Now, the next phase of driving businesses will be on this gadget. This is your new computer, and it's a computer that you'll be working around with. It's mobile, it's a device, and it will carry everything that you require to run your business. And 4, of course, you'll need cloud services where you can store your data. Data is king, and data will give us the opportunity to help you scale your business, grow your business, and even provoke you in terms of looking at new areas of opportunities. Now, as Safaricom, we remain interoperable. We work with the ecosystem, either digital lenders or commercial banks to drive business. For us, we want our customers who are using our merchant deals to use our Boostia Biashara product that we launched the other day to either access credit, grow their business, and we still remain simple, transparent, and honest for you.
Right. Thank you so much, David, for joining me tonight. Thank you so much, Jim, for joining me tonight and being on the marketplace, the one place where we bring market players to you as we discuss the things that affect your business and your lives. Thank you so much for staying tuned to TV47, the home of untold stories. Of course, you can always join us on social media at TV47 News and at TV47KE. My name is Hibak Said. Have a good night.